And across the country today, thousands of people protested over the tax system, demonstrating against what they call big government spending. These self-styled tea parties were aimed squarely at President Obama and the Democratic leaders in Congress, and aimed at garnering media attention as well. Here's Dan Harris.
They sang the national anthem in Fayetteville, North Carolina, marched through the streets in Eustis, Florida, and wore colonial outfits on the Boston Common, not far from the original Tea Party.
We're going to lose our freedom. It's really absolutely tragic.
They gathered at the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas, on the State House steps in Des Moines, Iowa, and in a town square in Cincinnati.
We are spending way too much money, and we're making our poor grandchildren pay for bills that are being accumulated now.
They're angry. They don't like high taxes.
Cheered on by Fox News and talk radio, the hundreds of tea parties today were designed to protest the bailouts, the stimulus plan, and President Obama's budget.
This is totally grassroots. Got on the internet, sent a couple emails.
But critics on the left say this is not a real grassroots phenomenon at all, that it's actually largely orchestrated by people fronting for corporate interests. People like the politician turned lobbyist Richard Armey.
Most of the people that are saying that are people whose politics I disagree with, and I just soon have them continue to believe that.
As I understand it, at least the way I see it here, these have nothing to do with the Democratic Party other than the Democrats suck. However, no more than the Republicans suck. This has nothing to do with how much Barack Obama is spending. It's about how much Barack Obama and George W. Bush and both Congresses have been spending for years. It has nothing to do with parties. It has everything to do with politicians from those parties lying to the people that they're supposed to serve.
Organizers describe the Tea Parties as nonpartisan events, but not all political experts agreed. Some say in the absence of any true Republican leadership, it is an attempt to fill a void. In fact, a recent CBS News New York Times poll showed that the approval rating for the Republican Party was at 25%.
I think the simple way to put it is this is on the part of the Republican National Committee an effort to build up grassroots for what is a very decimated party.
I thought the Tea Parties were great. I mean, I think when you get that kind of grassroots sentiment being expressed, thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people all across the country, that will have an impact on Capitol Hill. That'll have an impact, I think, on the political process, and it's basically a healthy development.
This initiative is funded by the high end. We call it AstroTurf. It's not really a grassroots movement. It's AstroTurf by some of the wealthiest people of America to keep the focus on tax cuts for the rich instead of for the great middle class.
I think Washington has made very, very clear that New York City fat cat bankers are a priority over Michigan manufacturing plants. We must embrace and reward individual initiative, hard work, and creativity.
I think any time that you have severe economic conditions, there is always an element of disaffection that can mutate into something that's unhealthy.
We kind of adjusted that and said we could have 5,000. It could be much more than that too.
Park Ranger says there's about 6,000 to 7,000 people here.
Most Democrats I know are delighted with this. We couldn't get enough of this coverage. I think, if anything, it was harmless and somewhat damaging to Republicans. I couldn't. The more that we cover this thing, and the average age of these things had to be 72.4. I mean, they had every old crank in the country out there.
USA! USA! USA!
All right, now here's the point. Over 20,000 people that showed up last night, Dick. Well-behaved, wonderful people, young, old, middle-aged. I mean, it was inspiring to me. It energized me.
Let's see, drop the taxes, drop socialism. Okay, let's see, you're here with your 2-year-old, and you're already in debt. Why are you here today, sir?
because I hear a president say that he believed in what Lincoln stood for. Lincoln's primary thing was he believed that people had the right to liberty and they had the right...
Sir, what does this have to do with taxes? What does this have to do with your taxes? Do you realize that you're eligible for a $400 credit?
Finish my point. Lincoln believed that people had the right to share in the fruits of their own labor and that government should not take it. And we have clearly gotten to that point.
Wait. Did you know that the state of Lincoln gets $50 billion out of these stimulus? That's $50 billion for this state, sir.
Ma'am, can you stop this, sir? Hold on.
Okay, well, Kira, we'll move on over here. I think you get the general tenor of this. It's anti-government, anti-CNN, since this is highly promoted by the right-wing conservative network Fox. And since I can't really hear much more, and I think this is not really family viewing, toss it back to you, Kira.
To the top of the countdown and our #1 story this week in teabagging. First, there's been some criticism of the teabagging coverage we disseminated here on Countdown. As you'll see, we couldn't resist the sexual jokes. It was like, what's the phrase? Oh yeah, low-hanging fruit. In our fourth story tonight, it's going to be teabagging day for the right wing, and they are going nuts for it. Thousands of them whipped out the festivities early this past weekend, and while the parties are officially toothless, the teabaggers are full-throated about their goal. Then there is the media, specifically the Fox News channel, including Glenn Beck and Sean Hannity. Both are looking forward to an up-close and personal taste of teabagging themselves at events this Wednesday.
Republican talking heads like former House Speaker Newt Gingrich have pushed their own vision of teabagging down the throats of the original teabaggers, who were in fact libertarian supporters of Ron Paul. And the nation's teabagging, of course, impossible without this man, a Dick Armey at the head of it.
Thank you. You know, there is nothing more interesting than seeing a bunch of racists become confused and angry at a speech they're not quite certain what he's saying. It sounds right to them, and then it doesn't make sense, which... Let's be very honest about what this is about. It's not about bashing Democrats. It's not about taxes. They have no idea what the Boston Tea Party was about. That's right. They don't know their history at all. This is about hating a black man in the White House. This is racism straight up. That is nothing but a bunch of tea-bagging rednecks.